to get into the room. Okay, we're good. We're good. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the latest masterclass from Nostra, Mythos, and the new cyber frontier. For anyone who hasn't met me before, my name is Gary Byrne. I'm Managed Services Director here at Nostra. As always, I'd like to start by thanking you all for taking the time to join us today. Whether you've attended previous Nostra webinars and masterclasses, or whether this is your very first session with us. Today's topic is a really important one. We're going to look at what Anthropic's most powerful AI model and what it means for businesses. Why there has been so much discussion around models like this being potentially too powerful or risky to release, and most importantly, what practical steps that organizations can take to stay ahead of the threat. As with all of our sessions, we want to keep them grounded and practical. There's plenty of noise and hype around AI at the moment, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity. The purpose of today's masterclass is to separate the real risks from headlines, explain what AI-assisted attacks actually look like for everyday businesses, and then show how organizations can respond in a sensible and in a structured way. As always, we have a strong panel joining us. Today, we have Nostra CEO Kevin O'Loughlin, who will open for us by setting the scene around Mythos and why it matters. We then have our principal solutions architect, Senan Finucane, who will help separate credible risk from headline noise. We have our Chief Technology Officer, Gary Melvin, who will talk through AI-assisted attacks and how they are changing the threat landscape. And finally, we have our Head of Security, Derek Solon, who will cover the practical defensive measures that businesses should be focusing on. We'll also talk about how Nostra is helping our clients prepare for this new AI-accelerated era, building on the security foundations that you already have in place. As always, these sessions work best when interactive, so please, any questions that you have, there is a Q&A section and a chat, post them in there and we'll deal with them in real time. And as always, we'll leave time at the end of the session specifically to deal with Q&A. Again, as always, we will be recording the session and we'll share the recordings and the slides afterwards. And as always, they're available in Nostra's, along with previous masterclasses and webinars in Nostra's YouTube channel. So don't worry if you miss anything or you want to revisit them with your team afterwards. Okay, so with that, I'd like to welcome you all again. And I'd like to hand over to our CEO, Kevin O'Loughlin, who's going to kick us off.
Thank you, Gary, and welcome everyone. And great to actually, I suppose, get a couple of minutes to talk to predominantly customers directly. So Mythos or Mythos, whichever version you want to call it, is something that has made obviously global news. What we, over the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen lots of tools like this, and probably, is this a huge advancement over and above the other AI tools that have existed in the last 3 or 4 years? Yes, but probably not as big an advancement as you would think. However, the real advantage here is that it is bringing huge awareness to the AI risks that actually exist and are out there. One of the challenges is that if you have a significant cyber attack, typically the very first time you'll have experienced one is when it hits your organization. Most companies don't speak about cyber attacks when they happen. Most cyber attacks happen behind closed doors. Most cyber attacks have a much larger human impact than people realize, in that, during a cyber attack, most people don't get any sleep, which can last for 5 or 10 days. Teams are working around the clock. Companies are trying to figure out if they're going to get back online. There is huge customer challenges in dealing with those scenarios. What AI has done in the last couple of years is made those cyber attacks more common. It has made cyber risk to move from being perpetrated by absolute tech experts to literally anybody being able to get access to the right AI tools can attack an organization. However, it's not all doom and gloom, right? The positive is AI, while it massively increases the risk of an attack actually can massively increase your defense if you're using it as well. Because what an engineer would have had to do 5 or 6 years ago in analyzing a network to find holes in it might have taken a week, we're now able to get done in a matter of hours. And in theory, we're able to constantly monitor a network and find issues as they arise and deal with them straight away. Whereas again, a number of years ago, that was something that was held off for a quarter end or every 6 months. So there is a double-edged sword here. From a Nostra's perspective, we've put a huge amount of time into building a whole set of products and suites of tools that are helping our customers to be more secure. One of the most notable is a product which we have called Cloud Shield, which is effectively a list of all the products we believe customers need to have to stay secure, bundled in one tool that actually all work together to give a company a really, really high level of cybersecurity. And several people on the webinar today will have that tool in place. And that is a constant evolving piece. When we first launched that 5 years ago, it had a totally different tool set than it does today. And we constantly look and change that. I think from one last point for me is that Nostra has invested hugely in staying ahead of cyber risk. And we travel the world to different conferences to understand what is out there and what we can actually do to help. So today is really to demystify, I suppose, what we see out there, to give you our take on how we defend ourselves and how we defend our customers against it. And our key message, and my key message to you today, is that, please engage with us. Please make sure that you maximize your security protection, because I can tell you from my perspective, my least favorite day is sitting in front of a customer who's had a cyber issue, and we're sitting down going, this is something that we believed you should have had, and we've spoken to you about it 3 or 6 or 9 months ago. Cyber attacks do happen, and when they happen, they are extremely impactful. So our ask is listen, learn, and engage with us, and we want to be able to show you how we believe we can make you a much more secure organization going forward. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Senan Finucane, who's going to lead today's session. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kevin. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Senan Finucane. I'm a co-founder here at Nostra and principal solutions architect. I'm sure I've dealt with a lot of you before. So what I'm going to do is take you through basically the risk versus the headline noise. So there's been an awful lot of, media attention with the Mythos family, or more importantly, the Claude 5 family of models. And I'm going to just take you through what is real and what isn't real. So basically just the timeline. So in April 2026, basically Mythos, or the safeguarded version Fable 5, was held back. They thought it was too powerful to release because it just unearthed too many vulnerabilities in certain softwares. It was first released to a kind of a select few of companies in America, mainly to do around security, government, and infrastructure. So the likes of, say, Apple, Google, Cisco, CrowdStrike, JP Morgan, the big banks as well, Microsoft, Nvidia, the chip makers, all of those were pulled together. I think there was roughly 50 in total. They were let use on Mythos to, scan their systems to see where vulnerabilities may have existed, to make them more hardened or less susceptible, to a cyber attack from a competing nation state. They're basically afraid of Russia or China or one of those being able to take one of their big companies offline, and hence put massive pressure on the American economy and the American government. So it was released.
Sorry, just to jump in for a second, you're on the presenters slide there. I don't know if the sync is in place there for the timeline.
Oh, sorry, apologies.
No, you're all good. You're all good. Thanks very much.
Now, can you see that, Gareth? 3 months of alarming headlines?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Apologies there, guys. Yeah, so now you can see the headline number. So basically, it was released to Project Glasswing at the start. They obviously found vulnerabilities in their existing systems. Then post that, it was released to the wider market. But it's very important to understand the Claude 5 family consists of 2 main models. That's Mythos 5 and Fable 5. The Mythos 5 only gets released to approved vendors. We never see that as the public. we only ever get to see Fable 5. It's the same model under the hood, except there's massive safeguards built into Fable 5, because anybody with a credit card basically can use Fable 5, but anybody cannot use Mythos 5. So there's a big distinction there. So the government pulled the plug in June 12th because literally a day beforehand, researchers at Amazon were able to jailbreak Fable 5. So those safeguards that made it Fable 5 basically were stripped away by these certain engineered prompts and defaulted it to Mythos 5. So effectively, anyone with a credit card was technically able to use it as Mythos 5. But not anybody. It's people that have the technical know-how to obviously bypass those safeguards. That obviously spooked the American government enough that they pulled, or they basically gave an order to Anthropic to disallow the use of Fable 5 to non-US residents. Now, that's impossible because they'd never know the ethnicity or the citizenship of everybody that pays up with a credit card to use Fable 5. So that resulted in them having to pull it wholesale basically on June 12th. It was then restored on June 11th, and now we can all use it again. So that's basically the history between the on-off scenario with it. The signal basically, so we'll separate I suppose, the noise from the signal. So the signal was that under Project Glasswing, all of those companies that I mentioned before, especially Cloudflare, they were able to run scans against their systems, call them pen tests or vulnerability scans against their systems, find out where the critical flaws were, and hopefully patch them before this technology was released to the greater world, because that's exactly what would happen. All of these big technology companies would then be scanned by third-party people that they don't know. And obviously, they do not want their systems taken offline. So that was the whole point of Project Glasswing. And as you can see, there was a massive amount of vulnerabilities found. So Cloudflare alone had nearly 2,000 confirmed vulnerabilities that they had to go off and patch in really short-term time. Mozilla, from the Firefox provider, they found over 10x vulnerabilities in their systems. Then Palo Alto, one of the big next-generation firewall and security providers over on the west coast of America, who are a global company as well, they found massive vulnerabilities in their system. So typically using their tools, they would find anywhere between 10 to 15 vulnerabilities per month, but they nearly 2x that. They were finding 24 plus using the Mythos tool. So you see the difference. It turbo boosts the ability to find vulnerabilities in critical systems as well. So that's, again, what scared big business in America and ultimately the American government as well. And that's why it was pulled. So I guess the noise that doesn't hold up as well. So it's not all kind of like Kevin was saying, doom and gloom. So is AI inventing whole new categories of attacks? No, it's not. All it does, it's a bit like, is AI taking everybody's jobs? No, that's kind of more scaremongering. What it does is it augments existing jobs to enable them to be done faster and more efficient, and improves the quality. It's pretty much the same with cyber attacks. So it doesn't invent all new attacks. It just accelerates known attack types like social engineering, exposed keys, misconfigurations. And it brings, I suppose, the time to attack is massively reduced from probably days to hours. So every attacker with a credit card now has a cyber weapon. Not technically, because of the safeguards that are built into Fable 5, you're not getting the full power of Mythos 5. Only select organizations have that. But again, if you're able to jailbreak Fable 5, that's where the problem is. But they seem to have fixed that now since the second release of Fable 5. Everybody is happy now that those jailbreaks cannot be exploited and that the safeguards cannot be circumnavigated as well. And the third kind of noise, I guess, as well, would be your defenses are now obsolete overnight. That's not the case. So with the release of Fable 5, it didn't create any new danger. It's basically, it surfaces the existing vulnerabilities that are already there quicker. So it hasn't really changed anything. It's just made the vulnerabilities more evident and easier to see for attackers. So what the experts, I guess, broadly agree on is, so AI makes existing attacks faster, not new ones. So everybody agrees that it will enable attackers to see those vulnerabilities, to exploit those vulnerabilities, and to chain those vulnerabilities together in a very orchestrated workflow type attack. They've never had that kind of capability before, or not to this degree in any term anyway as well. So basically, we got to assume that the attackers already have this capability. So that's working off what the SANS Institute have as their working assumption. So restriction of one's company model doesn't restrict criminals, basically. So we have to assume that they have these capabilities, and we have to put certain cyber mitigations in place to combat those vulnerabilities. So the basics matter the most, more than ever now. So you need to fix those known weaknesses, I guess. So when Nostra or other cyber companies perform vulnerability scanning or pen testing, you generally get a report back that says critical, high, medium, low. I guess now that the attackers are able to use AI to chain all of these different vulnerabilities together, 5 lows can be turned into a medium, and 5 mediums can be turned into a high, and so on and so forth. So what you should try to do is put kind of mitigating plans in place, or a program of cyber works in place that eliminates all of your risk where possible, and obviously to budget as well. So obviously start with critical, but we don't stop anymore just at high. We try to tackle the mediums and the lows as well, just to absolutely give them no attack surface whatsoever to try and breach your cyber defenses. And it's the pace as well. So the advantage goes to organizations that fix weaknesses faster than the attackers can find them. So if you have a certain cadence to your cybersecurity posture, let's call it increase, you need to do it monthly or even weekly, rather than what an awful lot of companies do on a 6-month or an annual basis. Cybersecurity is changing so fast that it's something that needs to be done literally daily or weekly to keep on top of things. I guess, what does that mean for the SME and mid-market? So Mythos is a governance story, not a capability story. So again, not having access to Fable 5 didn't kind of destroy AI or reduce companies' efficiencies overnight. Where you get best bang for buck when it comes to AI is in regards to, I guess, stitching everything together. So if you tailor your company to be an AI first company and not relying on a frontier model, I guess, or building your whole business case against a frontier model, that's where the real effort should be invested, I guess. Okay, so the takeaways are, right, so your risk didn't change overnight, your tempo did. So you need to kind of weigh AI security headlines against the evidence before changing your strategy. And that basically means don't have a knee-jerk reaction. If you have an AI strategy where you're going to try and make your workflows more efficient, you're going to try and have an AI center of excellence within your business, that's all great. Continue ahead, truck on with that. That's no problem whatsoever. What happened with Fable 5 and Mythos 5 doesn't really change any of that. And then ask one question of your IT team or partner: how quickly do we fix known weaknesses? So again, kind of what Kevin was saying at the top of the conversation, if you're already on Cloud Shield, a lot of this is being done for you in the background, so you're one step ahead of the rest. If you're not on Cloud Shield, maybe now this has highlighted the need to move to a more managed security, which will take care of this for you in the background and let you sleep at night, especially if you're senior leadership or C-suite level. And then invest in the unglamorous control. So the usual stuff, again, it aligns nicely with Cloud Shield. So identity, access, monitoring, they're the kind of steps that matter the most when it comes to your cyber defense or your cybersecurity posture. And then don't chase the newest model, build an AI-ready business. So again, these are just practical steps. Organize your SharePoint and Microsoft 365 data. That's far more important than trying to adopt the latest model within your organization. Implement governance, permissions, and classifications on all your data within SharePoint. Again, way more important. Automate repeatable business processes so you can leverage the likes of the Microsoft Power Platform to do that. And then using the best available model behind the scenes, you're free to swap to whatever provider. So think of it as a car. You want to buy a car where the engine is interchangeable, so that if you buy a car with the latest model right now, you basically can't change that engine. But if you buy a car that has an interchangeable engine, it doesn't matter whatever the frontier model that's winning that month, you can then avail of that model under the hood once you make a few tweaks in the background as well. So that's basically it for me. And I'm going to hand over to Gary Melvin. Hopefully, I've shown you exactly what Fable 5 and Mythos 5 have meant to SME, mid-market, and enterprise, and how that they don't have a massive bearing effect on your company right now, as long as you follow a proper cyber hygiene and improve your cybersecurity posture overall by adopting the likes of Nostra Cloud Shield. So thanks very much. Over to you, Gary.
Thanks, Senan. Morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to have two segments today. Do one now, and then Derek, and then back to myself again. So now I'm going to talk about just AI-assisted attacks and the problem, and then I'm going to get on in the further section on the solution and how we use the Microsoft technology as the solution to what we're highlighting as the issue. So we're going to expand on the problem, and then we're going to move on to the solution in a few minutes. So in terms of AI-assisted attacks, and to build on what Senan and Kevin has already said, where we see the issue is that it's going to take minutes instead of hours or weeks to stand up a cyber reconnaissance or cyber attack platform. One operator now can do a lot, and the ability to build agents, build reconnaissance agents, and just to explain what a reconnaissance agent is, and it'll build on some of the stuff later on as well, is what attackers do is they will scan your IP addresses daily, check if there's any open systems. So if we have a older firewall facing the internet, we have an older server facing the internet, we're coming to a time now where our recommendations to all our customers is to have nothing facing the internet. So it's going to try and scan all our parameters. If there is a vulnerability there, it's going to be able to actually take advantage of that vulnerability, report back on it, and actually over time build up a picture of how that organization can be compromised. If it hasn't been compromised this far, sometimes it's as it goes out of date, the risk gets higher. So if we're running older systems, the risk does not stay the same. As vulnerabilities become aware for those systems, the risk gets higher over time. And one point Senan made earlier on, even if it has low or medium vulnerabilities at the moment, the ability of AI and what we've seen, they can stitch those together, combine them to create a more critical vulnerability. So one operator with low skills can now target thousands of businesses 24/7, 365. The skill barrier has decreased, and the ability to automate 24/7, run this. And we'll talk about agents after a while, but an agent is an automation, AI automation using some knowledge and some tools to actually go out and scan and actually to carry out attacks. And the precursor to attacks really is where they find all their information. In terms of small to medium business, and for the majority of Nostra customers, you sit in that. Attacks used to be handpicked. The bigger organizations that would pay bigger ransomware money that were attacked mostly, but now the price and the amount of money that bad actors are looking for is large, whether it's a small business or a big business. The threat is twofold. One is to get into your data, and the other is to hold your data as ransom with ransomware, but they also exfiltrate that data and hold the data and threaten to dump that online if you don't pay. So we're just saying is that AI has made the scans and the ability to do that an awful lot easier. Small and medium businesses are now the target. They're assumed to have weaker defenses, and they're assumed to have lesser defenses in place. So some of the stuff that we will be talking to you about then is how do we reduce the threat? And some of that is around not having legacy systems in place, which Derek is going to cover, but also having less software in place. So if you need 3 different browsers, the browser itself is an attack surface. So we're working with our customers, reducing the number of browsers. Most organizations don't need to be running 3 browsers and have to update 3 browsers, bringing it down to 1. That's just an example. But what we'd be looking, in order to control stuff, every system needs to be kept up to date. And if an organization has to keep 5 or 100 systems up to date, then that's the way it's going to have to be. So there is more of a a step change, as Senan said, in that area. What AI-assisted attacks look like. So AI crafted phishing emails. Email is the way in still for 92% of cyber attacks. Starts off an email. What we will see from AI is all the data lists and all previous breaches. So it's not just the data list of today, it's for the last 10, 15 years. And we've seen millions of email accounts being breached on different lists over the last number of years, the last 10 years. All of that data will be used now by AI. It wasn't feasible for one cyber actor to actually use all of that, but now they can stitch all of those together and use that data to actually go out and validate that they're still alive. Carry out, we see spray attacks against Office 365 all the time. Actually start attacking Office 365 accounts, start attacking Google accounts, start attacking identities. So as well as your perimeter being attacked, your identities are being attacked as well. So there's a requirement to tighten security around that. Voice and video. If somebody shares a podcast online, and myself and the guys today, somebody can take that video and voice and actually use that data and actually do voice and video AI attacks based on, in particular, voice. Automated reconnaissance, we covered that. And then adaptive malware. So traditional defense in terms of endpoint security, email filtering would look at a sample of an email coming in. So what we're seeing now at the moment is that any of the AI tools can actually change the code. So that would, a couple of years ago, that would have been based on signatures of viruses, malware. That is changing so fast now. It's actually, traditional tools are no longer working. And that's why we look at the Microsoft platform in particular, because it's stitching information together from your endpoint, from your email, from your SharePoint, from your all the different elements that you're using. So it requires a different solution. So things are changing. If you get an email in and it's scanned and there's a link in it, it may be safe as it comes in, but then that link and the destination to that link might change an hour later. So there's a lot of different stuff that's happening in order for cyber criminals to get past the defenses that are there. In terms of phishing, the tells are gone. So it would have been previously easy to spot a phishing image, email grammar, spelling. Now they're pretty much flawless. They're exactly as the organization would send it out. Personalization, it's easier to do research, and we've seen AI agents for research in the Microsoft space and other space. So the attacker will know your suppliers, will actually be able to learn who you're interacting with. So there's a lot more data and personalization available to the attackers using AI than there would be on a one-to-one basis or a person doing it. Invoice redirection, we still see. So there's a constant to be on your guard in relation to phishing, and that's not going to go away. It's only going to get harder to spot over time. Deep fakes, clone voices, videos, built to bypass instinct. So that it is convincing. And if you're following stuff over the last year, there's been numerous cases where people's voices have been cloned and used in terms of invoice and other financial fraud. At the back of every attack that's going on, the means are financial. For the majority of cases, the means are financial. We're also in a time of global turbulence in relation to cyber war as well. So we are in Europe on a heightened level in relation to stuff coming out of Russia, Iran, China. So all of that stuff, I don't think we've ever seen as much turbulence in terms of cyber warfare as we're seeing at the moment, in terms of warfare in general and technology being used in global conflict. So what we're saying really is the window to exploit has collapsed. The way we act to that then is making sure that we're keeping everything up to date. Plus we limit what's being exposed, and that we tighten the controls around everything that we're doing. Malware, we covered a little bit, rewrites itself, hides a normal activity. Signatures alone can't keep it up, so that's why we're looking at the connected platforms. And that's why we look at the Microsoft piece in general, is because it is one connected platform across your whole estate, from email to endpoint to SharePoint to PureView, and we'll talk about that. One of the things that we've seen come up recently in the last couple of months is a fake AI economy as well. So AI is going to have two impacts in this. If somebody wants to create a website, it can be done straight away. AI will go off and do that and create a very convincing website and identity for an organization. We're seeing a lot of AI vendors coming into the market, offering solutions with very little or nothing behind them. We've seen AI vendors come in with very decent looking websites, and when we looked into their governance and due diligence behind them, there was fake ISO certificates. A lot of the assurance, the policies, and everything else were all AI generated. And this is where the challenge is. So any new third party that organizations are taking on, whether it's in the AI space or other space, there's an extra level of due diligence required, because AI now can generate a very convincing website with a lot of the security certifications and everything else up there that actually looks, and trust centers that looks really good. So every new tool is a new supply chain. So we have to look at AI suppliers and everything in the supply chain as well. And then if you can't verify what's behind the AI tools you use, don't trust them with your data. And we're seeing this very similar to what we would have seen in the early days of cloud. There was a huge amount of cloud companies. They're not all the same. Some has a huge amount of infrastructure behind them. Some has very little or none. And a lot of companies didn't find that out until they put their data in there and they had issues in terms of availability. Now, if we put our data in there, we'll have issues in terms of data security. And that's some of the stuff from today is keeping control of your data, know what AI tools are in place, and making sure that the controls are there. So shadow AI is what that brings us on to. Most organizations will have some level of AI in place. We use a couple of tools for looking at shadow AI. The list about a year ago was a couple of low hundreds of known AI systems or applications. That list at the moment is about 2,500 known AI providers and lists. So that's going up all the time. So if one of the things that we're looking at is making sure that you have visibility on what AI is in use. So without having visibility of the problem, you can't control it. So we definitely know most organizations are using AI. When we do an AI review with organizations, it's always more than what they think is there. And you can't protect what you can't see. So one of the first things we'll be talking about later on is turning on that visibility using the Microsoft tool set. Sensitive data can leave the business quite easy and be uploaded into AI tools. We'll also be looking at sensitivity labeling. Senan mentioned it a little bit, but that is a precursor to a lot of security elements, data loss prevention and other stuff we're going to be looking at. So that's something that can be done in SharePoint, and we'll talk about different ways of doing that. The answer isn't to ban AI, it's to make sure there's a good governance in place. And this is where we're looking at the NIST cybersecurity framework in relation to AI. So that's around detect, protect, and governance. So it's three elements of the NIST cybersecurity. So detect what's in place, make sure the protections are there, and then governance and oversight is going to be crucial. The AI policy, it wouldn't be good today without us touching on this. So the AI Act has come in. There's some changes to that now in August. So everyone is going to have obligations in relation to the AI Act and making sure that they have an AI policy in place. And Senan mentioned it earlier on, an AI strategy will be a subset of most organizations' business strategy and their IT strategy. So most organizations are looking to leverage AI safely, and having a strategy on how to do that and how the organization will adopt, governing, and secure AI is going to be crucial going forward. So what this means for everyday business, the barrier to attack is gone. So assume that you're in scope. So what you did yesterday and last year is no longer open to be done. So we have to move away from that. The old warning signals and protections aren't going to protect us, and your people and your data are in the front line, along with anything that's internet publishing. And one of the things that we'll be working with all our customers on is to minimize what is facing the internet and making sure everything is kept up to date, which Derek is going to cover. But your people are also being attacked, and their identities are being attacked as well. That's the end of the first segment I have. I'm going to pass over to Derek, and he's going to focus on the defense.
Thank you, Gary. I suppose AI has dramatically changed the speed of cyber attacks, what's happening here today. But I suppose the message really is that although it has done that, it's also helped with the defenses that we can do against it and awareness of it. And I suppose that's one of the things that I want to try cover here today. So look, some of what you might have actually heard so far might sound quite alarming, especially when you see what AI is actually capable of. But let me change that slide, sorry. But today, I suppose it isn't really about scaring people. It's more about the awareness and what we can actually do in changing how we can defend against these new threats. So I'm just going to see. There we go. One of the things I suppose I'd like is to remember from today is that AI, although it does change the speed of the attacks, it doesn't actually change how we stop against attacks. Organizations that are usually getting breached out there at the moment, they don't have some magic AI security product. More often than not, it's just that they're missing the basic fundamentals. So that's what I'm going to currently go through at the moment. But just to give an example of, suppose, one of these fundamentals that's often happening is most software manufacturers, hardware manufacturers, they would potentially have to release vulnerabilities on their products. That's what's known as, say, a security advisory. So when they do release that, they're informing everybody out there in the public that they have a weakness that does exist. They might not have a patch and stuff like that for it yet. So they're informing all the MSPs and the businesses out there, we have to make awareness and try to fix this. But they're also informing and including the potential attackers that are out there. So I suppose years ago, when stuff like this used to come out, the attackers would need a team of skilled people to analyze that vulnerability and then to work out how to exploit that, create tools to attack it. And that process could have taken them days or even weeks. But with today, AI has completely changed that. You know, the attackers can now use the AI to analyze the vulnerability, generate attack scripts, and actually begin to attacking organizations within minutes. So the time between vulnerability becoming public and vulnerability becoming public, it's just much smaller now, and we need to become more dramatically to actually try defend against that. So we need to patch quickly, continuously monitor our environments, and know where the vulnerabilities are. So before the attackers do. So some of the fundamentals that we need to get ruthlessly right. MFA, we all know MFA, it's been around for years. It's still a critical layer of security. Attackers have evolved. You know, one of the techniques that they actually use is hijacking session tokens and stuff like that. It's a trick that they actually use to get users to go to fake websites, click on malicious links, and then they can steal their session tokens. Which that then lets them bypass it. But even so, MFA paired with other security measures, it still remains one of the strongest defenses that we have against unauthorized access. Stuff like the voice checks and obviously security awareness and stuff like that. Patching is something I'm going to go through and some of the new tools we have around this. But it's obviously been an important thing to keep our patching up to date. Most organizations in the past probably would have gotten away with not patching things as often. But today, look, AI is constantly looking for known weaknesses to exploit this. So this is why it's even more importantly to keep your systems up to date. So we'll go through shortly now just in some of the ways that we're going to help do that. Least privileges, the most important principles really in cybersecurity. It's simply just, it's if an attacker compromises an account, they should only be able to access the absolute bare minimum. I suppose the best way to think about this is imagine you're staying in a hotel and you get a key to your room. That key only opens the door of your room. It doesn't open the door of any of the other rooms. It doesn't open the door of the manager's office or even the safe in the building. And your IT systems need to work exactly the same way. Every employee should only have access to the systems and the information that they use to do their job and nothing else. Backups, having a backup is essential, obviously, but simply having a backup isn't enough. You know, you need to make sure that your backups are immutable, they're encrypted, and they're regularly tested, and that nobody can literally modify your backups or delete any of your backups once they're actually there. Disaster recovery is a critical part of backups. You know, having a backup is great, but a disaster recovery is making sure that you get your business back up and running as soon as possible. If something does happen, like worst case scenario, where building burns down or something, you need to be able to take your backup, which is great, but be able to present that somewhere, whether it be in a cloud or another environment, so you can still get the business back up and running. And Defender EDR and monitoring is obviously another one. Gary's going to speak a little bit about that. But what that is continuously monitoring your organization, detecting suspicious activity so you can quickly respond to the incident before it actually becomes a major breach. Cloud Shield, that is our 10 layers of protection that we have, something that we're very proud of. And we've been tweaking it for many of the years, constantly changing and updating the products and stuff like that within it. As products improve, we swap out the products to make them better, but we always have to stay ahead of what's out there at the time. So we're constantly updating that going forward. So legacy equipment. This is really critical. As I mentioned, obviously patching is important, but the problem, I suppose, with legacy hardware and software is that eventually the manufacturers, they stop supporting them. And what happens is security updates also stop. So if there is critical vulnerabilities or anything that needs to be patched or released on or vulnerability on these products, what basically can happen is that the manufacturers just won't create a fix for it anymore. They won't release a patch. You know, and that leaves real security gaps, especially with AI-assisted attackers out there who can now exploit these, you know. Old style VPN and SSL. I know during COVID, most of the MSPs in the world would have been setting up VPNs, this style of VPN. And I know we were up to our eyes. It was probably one of the busiest times we ever had. Everybody rushed to get their users to work from home. They all had to work from home, didn't have proper licenses, didn't have proper setup. So all the MSPs were literally rushing to get these things set up. And I can guarantee you that a lot of them weren't set up properly and didn't have MFA and stuff like that. Luckily enough, when that was happening, AI wasn't where it is today, because we would have been at a serious risk with the way some of them things were set up, just to rush to get people set up as soon as possible. There's new ways. This old style VPN, most of the firewall manufacturers out there, it's just been, there's been so many vulnerabilities with SSL VPN that they have all come out and said, look, that this isn't a viable product anymore. So you have the likes of, say, SonicWall have a product called CSE. You have Microsoft's GSA, which is their global secure access. And, you know, this is these are the products that we would actually recommend, you know, but the old traditional SSL VPNs, what they used to do was they would allow you to authenticate and gain access and assume then that you're a trusted user. But once that was in and you were on the network, you were on the network and you had access. So if that was compromised, that's the only thing they had to compromise. So this new method and new tools that we have, like GSA, Microsoft, these are zero trust, which basically means they continuously verify your access requests. The access is only granted if you meet strict requirements, such as there's MFA again is on it. The device compliance is the device has to be compliant. The health check, is the device patched? Is it updated? And does it have proper antivirus? And then what it does is it continuously verifies all the way through the session to make sure that so this new approach with regards to VPN and remote access provides far more secure approach than what we would have had in the past. And it's highly recommended for any users that are out there or any business that are still using the old SSL VPN to move away from it as soon as possible. So, vulnerability management. We've had to completely re-engineer the way we approach vulnerability management because the old model simply just can't keep pace with today's landscape. The monthly and quarterly vulnerability scans, they're no longer enough. You need to use new tools now, which will allow us to continuously monitor your systems and scan and report back to the systems as quickly as every 15 minutes, And the new approach, what we have, it's agent-based. So we monitor every single managed device that you have, whether it's in the office or not. Again, the old approach, this idea of scanning your network, it doesn't really do what you need it to do because the majority of people now, or businesses now, they have people working from home, they have people working all over the world or wherever it may be. And each one of them devices, they have access to your data, they have access to your tenants, or they have access into your office. So any vulnerabilities on them need to be checked, regardless where they are in the world. And that's what agent-based actually allows us to do. If we look at what we actually scan and what we need to check, it's all the likes of Windows devices, workstations, servers, but it's all your hardware, your firewalls, switches, ILO, iDRACs, and all your environments like Active Directory, Azure, Entra ID, and even your third-party software that you have on it. All these things need to be monitored as soon as possible. It's every 15 minutes, but the third-party software, we might not be able to patch that and update that. We might have to work with third parties, but at least we can report on whether it needs to be done. And then externally, we would monitor stuff like your public-facing IP addresses, any open ports and stuff like that, internal-facing vulnerabilities, and also we can manage and scan your websites as well for vulnerabilities, So what this does is it provides continuous visibility of, instead of occasional snapshots, it allows us to literally remediate vulnerabilities and attackers before they actually can exploit them. So this approach, it also supports frameworks such as ADORA, ISO, and your GDPR and stuff like that. It helps us to do risk assessments and evidence of the vulnerabilities, and that they're actually being actively management, but it also allows us to provide meaningful reporting, showing not only that vulnerabilities are being identified, but they're also being remediated and being completed. So what do I want you to kind of remember from these things today? I suppose the basic things is do the fundamentals exceptionally well. Eliminate any legacy technology is really critical. If you look at a piece of hardware and it's old, you wouldn't put it onto your system. Why would you keep an old piece of hardware on your system now? It's high risk. Get rid of it and replace it as soon as you can. The same with any outdated software, Look, move from periodic scanning to continuous visibility scanning. And that's critical. Monthly and quarterly scans just won't do it anymore. You could run a monthly scan and we can start remediating the work on that, but literally a day or an hour or two later so we could have high risk vulnerabilities in there, and we're remediating stuff that's actually only showing up for reports. So we need to be looking at this every 15 minutes, as soon as possible. As soon as we see that work needs to be done, we can act on it, and especially on the high risk ones. And as Senan mentioned earlier on, it's not just the high risk. If we have reports and dashboards when we're looking now with the new tool set that we actually have, we can see across your whole business where there is high, medium, and low risk. Obviously, we act on the high risk as soon as possible, but then we can go and act on the medium and the low. And the whole idea is that we'd have these lovely graphs and reports that we can share with all of our customers to show that this is where the vulnerabilities were. These are all the remediations that we've actually acted on, and this is where we were, whether it be a month, a week, or wherever, 6 months ago. But this is where we are now. And in an ideal world, what we would like to do is to have most of our clients where all of your highs and mediums and even lows. And it's very difficult because the environments are constantly changing. But if we have everybody with there's no high risk, no medium, and when you look at your tenant and you have a lovely report to show this, it's constantly being monitored. You might all of a sudden get a spike then up, oh, there's a high risk straight away. We can act on them straight away. So the end goal really is to have that there is no high risks, no mediums. We have you at a nice low level, trying to keep you all safe. But as soon as something comes up, we're not waiting for a monthly or a quarterly scan to find that out. We will see it more or less instantly coming up that we can act on that also. So that's really what I have, I suppose, on. I'm happy to take any questions on it. But, one of the things is remove legacy technology, know what's happening across your environments every minute at a time. And look, guys, AI isn't really replacing good security here. It's just making good security more important. And that's my piece. It's probably back to you now, Gary. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, Derek. That's great. So I'm just going to bring you home now. Take me a couple of minutes. So you've seen the threat discussion around vulnerability management and how a requirement to keep that up to date, bringing in your asset management policies and everything we do around asset management. Now I'm going to just put down just some solutions we have. So we use Microsoft technology to defend against cyber attacks, and in particular also to govern AI. This is built on a solid foundation of Cloud Shield. So we're hoping everybody on the call is on Cloud Shield Plus, that they have implemented Defender on their endpoints, that the Intune is in place, and then we're starting to build it out on top of that. So that's the where things start off. So the baseline is utilizing Business Premium, having Defender for endpoint, a solid foundation, a lot of conditional access policies on your 365, and now we're looking at adding on top of that into what do we need to do next. So what do we need to do next to get visibility on what AI is in use, and then how do we protect that AI? So Microsoft has released a number of solutions for this, and some of these have been around quite a while, and some of them have just been renamed. So we've Microsoft Agent 365, which we're going to cover in terms of managing AI agents, and that's a level where most organizations are just getting to now, and they're the conversations we're having, is how do we deploy AI agents in the workspace. A fundamental level of coverage, what we need to have is Microsoft PureView. So that gives you the insight, the governance, if somebody down to a level where you can actually see what prompts have been put into the AI. Defender for Cloud Apps is the solution that's going to give us the visibility. So what we're looking at is we have a good solid foundation in place. Now give us the visibility of what AI is in our organization. That's where Defender for Cloud Apps come in. Microsoft PureView is the governance, and also it allows you to implement DLP controls, stop data going up into unsanctioned AI, have a view of what prompts and the results of those prompts. And Derek actually mentioned global secure access, which allows web filtering and secure remote access. These are the newer technologies from Microsoft, but they're all coming together. And what we're saying is we're building the jigsaw and all these pieces. So we have a lot of the jigsaw there already in terms of Cloud Shield Plus and 365. Now we're adding on for the new AI era that is today. So what the new AI era demands is more governance, more visibility, and least privilege access, and continued vulnerability management, and continued insight to what's going on in your organization. The guardrails as we see them, Agent 365, PureView, which we've covered. Agent 365, this may not be known to everybody, but this is the ability to actually see what agents, and there's a register of agents, but the agent takes on the identity and is treated as a person, really. So has a full identity. You can see what the agent is doing. Agent can be part of groups. It gets access to different systems, and you can actually message the agent then in Teams, email, all that type of stuff. So Agent 365 is when you get to a stage where you want to deploy AI agents in your organization, Agent 365, and we want to run a session on Agent 365. It's not the most important that we want to cover today. So the most important we want to cover today is PureView and Cloud Apps. So PureView will allow you to actually see and govern AI activity in your organization and put controls in place, like data loss prevention, to make sure that your governance, what's in AI tools, what's in use, what can be in use, stop the data leaks, enforce DLP, and that is the biggest piece. So we're seeing now PureView move into a fundamental requirement for organizations that want to govern, manage, and put an AI strategy based on the Microsoft tool set in place and build on what's there. So that's something we will also do a deep dive over the next couple of weeks on, is how to use PureView and the best way to do it. Shadow AI, so you can't protect what you can't see. So Defender for Cloud Apps is an add-on as well to Defender. So it'll discover what's in use. It'll classify it. And actually, once you can see what's in use, you can actually start defending and reporting it. So a big piece of governance and monitoring is being able to see what's in use. And the Microsoft Defender piece, we have Defender down in most endpoints. This is an additional piece now, Defender for Cloud Apps, to see what Shadow AI, and there's other benefits of Defender for Cloud Apps as well. But we see it as a big add-on for controlling what's out there and working with PureView in order to give visibility. Global Secure Access we've covered. It has two components: secure private access and secure internet access. So it builds on the zero trust principles that we've been doing so far. So bringing it all together, the foundational level is Cloud Shield. We're thinking this is already in place for the majority of the clients. Aligned to NIST cybersecurity framework, identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, which is massive. The protections now is on top of Cloud Shield. We want to implement PureView. We want to implement Cloud App Security to give you the visibility and the governance that you need in terms to manage the organization. So Microsoft has actually brought out a new, and we'll send on the links, but if you're running Business Premium, which most of our customers are, there's a new add-on SKU to add Microsoft Defender, which includes Cloud Apps and PureView suites to the license at what we see as a reasonable cost. So rather than buying it separate, and this is relatively new, Microsoft has some bundles built on top of Business Premium, which is much less expensive than going down the newer E7 license, which is quite expensive. So that is a whistle-stop tour of the protections, but we're trying to highlight the threat, but actually make sure that there is a solution there to get visibility. There is a solution in terms of PureView to put the controls and data loss protection and to actually secure AI. The biggest thing in terms of what Sinan has said earlier on, in terms of the car and changing the engine, the Microsoft tool set will allow you to use, in terms of their Frontier products, their co-work products, will also allow you to use other AI in the background. So if you wanted to use Claude with their co-work program, it's not included in your Copilot license, but it's an add-on. It is available to do that. So I'm going to pass back to Gary quickly for a couple of questions before we wrap up.
Gary, Melvin, thanks so much for that. And for all our presenters, thanks so much. Folks, I do realize that we are close to time. We're going to hang on for a few minutes and deal with Q&A. If anybody has to drop off, well, then this will be sent over to you afterwards, and it will be available in Nostra's YouTube channel. Any questions that you have, please post them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll deal with them here. Gary Melvin, I'd like to maybe start with yourself, your previous head of security in Nostra and CTO, and now managing director over in the West. What have you seen through those roles? We talk about how AI has increased attacks, and Senan spoke about, it's the old things but faster. You know what I mean? Like, so what have you seen in terms of the volume of attack once AI introduced? Authentication, spoofs, and whatever. What did that look like?
So we looking at 365 logs in particular, we're seeing that and we do this multiple times a week. We're seeing a lot of password spray attacks from multiple countries all the time. And I know if some customers are on the call, I would have had conversations with them myself and Derek, over the last short term. But we do see a lot more activity in terms of reconnaissance, a lot more activity in terms of password spray attacks. We're seeing some stuff now in terms of AI injection attacks or AI. So they're trying and trick AI tools to run prompts and putting in stuff like ASCII characters. And there's some stuff going on. So the attacks continue to change. So what we've seen over the last 10 years is attacks continue to change. But I would bring it back to one point that Derek made, was actually doing the fundamentals well and having a strong asset management policy and replacement and keeping everything up to date with very little facing the internet, and putting strong controls in place, utilizing all the Microsoft stack, will put you in a very good place. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I have seen, is doing the fundamentals really well puts people in a really good place.
Gary, thanks a million for that. And again, we do consistently talk about fundamentals in Nostra being the most important. I will say to people as well, and it's on previous webinars, we do have a compliance division here within Nostra. It's been mentioned by a few of the presenters that a policy is an absolute 101 start of good cyber, prevention. And please engage with us in that in relation to that. Sen, I just want to build on what Gary said. So Cloud Shield, Nostra's position has always been a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity. Cloud Shield was your brainchild. I think we've had 4 or 5 iterations of it in, over the last couple of years. What does that look like? How does that, what do those changes look like? And how do we drive down vulnerabilities at pace by adding on extra layers?
Yeah, so the whole point of Cloud Shield was defense in depth, and that's layers, and more layers. And obviously, with everybody moving to the cloud, becoming cloud-first companies, we needed something to best protect against all of the different attackers and attack vectors. I guess the layers changed with time. I think Cloud Shield, we started maybe 4 or 5 years ago. The landscape, or the IT landscape, has dramatically changed in that time, and it coincided with the I suppose the first coming of AI back in 22. GPT came out late 22. We're now nearly up to the end of 2026, well, mid to 26. So I guess the layers have to change with the threat landscape. AI is assisting that threat landscape, but like the guy said before, AI is also assisting the defense of that landscape as well. We have to continually map out and manage all the different technologies that we use in our cyber toolkit to best protect our clients. And that's done on literally a weekly basis. Myself, Gary, Jaco, Derek, Kevin, we're constantly scanning the market, looking at what the latest tools are, what they're about, and more importantly, how do they best impact our clients in the real world. Some of the technology that's coming out now will never touch our clients. So we need to kind of sort the wood from the trees and see what's impactful. Can we adopt it? How do we defend against it? It's a constant game of cat and mouse, I guess, trying to keep on top of this. And look, that's what makes our jobs interesting as well. And obviously, ultimately, we want to keep our clients secure.
Sen, thanks so much for that. And Derek Solomon, to move on to yourself then, visibility, eyes on everything, see what's coming down the line. You told us that the annual penetration test just isn't good enough anymore. We need continuous eyes on. So I think that product looks excellent. But can you tell us, you are head of security, what are your teams seeing as being the biggest gaps when people suffer an attack? What are the biggest attacks? Is it SSL? Is it email accounts for 92? What are the gaps that people still don't have?
Gaps, really. There's lots of them in some cases, but one that really comes aware to me is security awareness training. That
Yeah.
That's just critical. You need to update your staff and let your staff know what the risks are out there. Like the amount of times that we get messages in, somebody's clicked on an email that they shouldn't have, and not only have they clicked on it, but they've gone through the whole process and given their full username and password details in. And like that still happens almost daily, that we're getting calls like that in, so you really need to be updating your staff on what is safe and what's not safe. And even, it's becoming more difficult, as we mentioned on this, because the links that the staff are getting now, they look so real. Everything that you get now, it actually looks, the proper websites done up with, where people are putting details in, credit card details in. These are websites that are spun up, that are so professional looking, but they're made with AI in minutes, and that's what it's against us now. But one of the big gaps really is the speed that we can react to these things as well. Attackers are now using AI, and the time that we have literally it's decreased. We don't have the same amount of time we have to respond to these things. We have to have our clients using proper vulnerability, make sure that all the systems are patched and updated. The old school way of just checking things monthly and quarterly and stuff and running scans on it, as we mentioned there, like that's gone. We have to continuously be looking at our clients, continuously looking at all of their devices across the system and checking for vulnerabilities daily. And even as close as with the new tools that we have now, we can do it every 15 minutes, and that's what we highly recommend that we deploy and get our customers to actually be working with. So,
Derek, thanks so much for that. And again, listen, across the board and to our customers online, Nostra is constantly talking about, multi-layers to security, and we're constantly talking about what we see as the Nostra fundamentals, the absolute 101. We do have a question in from Donald Moore. Donald, thanks so much for the question. Will Nostra be adding to the Cloud Shield protection automatically, or do organizations need to reach out and contact Nostra?
I can take that one, Gar. So I think every organization is different. So we'll need to have a conversation, Donald. We do want to talk about AI policy and an AI strategy for all our customers. So and different customers that are different level of the journey as well. So we definitely want to have those conversations. So we will touch base with you, Donald. But that's one of the biggest things that we want to take away from this as well, is that we have the tools there to protect, detect, respond, recover, do all the elements that we need to do. So we want to have those discussions, and we want to know from each of our customers then what is their strategy for AI. Some customers want to start deploying AI agents. Some customers have already deployed AI agents within their business for different sections. So once we understand the strategy, tie it down to policy, then we'll move to the controls. But essentially, everything will be what are we doing from a business level first, and then we'll put in the right strategy and protections in place to do it. But I do see PureView and Cloud Apps being an essential. Whether that's going into Cloud Shield or not at this time. We'll probably roll it separate to Cloud Shield for the moment and review it then in a couple of months' time.
Gary, thank you. And Donald, your question, really appreciate it. Segues, I'm going to finish up and I'm going to hand over to Kevin O'Loughlin for the very last word. From my side of the fence, I would really just like to thank everybody again for joining us here today. And I'd like again to reiterate that, Nostra's position never changes. We will see more layers of security, and we always believe in the fundamentals. And on the rare occasion that I do see a client suffer an attack, I'm disappointed at some of the things because they were caught because they didn't have the fundamentals that we talk about here all the time. Engagement with Nostra is really, really important. IT management is a two-way conversation. Your account manager is there. You have your contact details for the account manager, and they will be having these conversations with you on an ongoing basis. For anybody on the line who doesn't have an account manager, please reach out to me personally. My email address is gary.byrne@nostra.ie. Reach out to me, and we will make sure on behalf of Nostra that you get looked after. I'd like to thank everybody again today and remind you that this is up on YouTube. And Kevin, as CEO of Nostra, I'll give the last word to yourself. To our Nostra customers that are on the line, what's the message that you want to give them?
Thanks, Gary. Look, I think the key message, I think everyone has delivered it really well today, is that old legacy technology has to go, and it has to go straight away. We will evolve our Cloud Shield product every quarter probably and make changes. And when somebody signs up to us with Cloud Shield, we will consistently make sure that is the best, and it will change. One of the key points, and Gary just finished on it there, is it is a two-way engagement. If you have an account manager and you don't feel like you're getting the answers around security, please again reach out to Gary or myself. I'm Kevin.O'Loughlin@Nostra.ie, and we will make sure that you get aligned with somebody who is able to understand where you are and what you're trying to achieve. Security is something that does require effort on both sides of the table. What our commitment to you is, if you engage with us and you ask us, we will go in and we will give you all the advice. Our job is to tell you what your gaps are and what we feel you need to do. And then ultimately it's your decision as to where you want your own risk profile to be. But we feel at this point that we have the team, we have the resourcing, we do this across hundreds of customers every day, week and month, and we will consistently try and do our best for everybody. So please engage. It is a two-way conversation, and let's try and make sure that none of us ever have to sit across from a table and talk about a cyber attack that has happened. Thank you.
Kevin, thanks again for that. Folks, we're well over time, but I think we're all agreed a really, really important topic. Thanks again to the presenters, and thanks again to everybody for attending today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.